This will Clackmannanshire Council meeting. Apologies from Councillor Holden and Councillor Keogh for this morning, and joining online from the members. Do you have any declarations of interest?
Not really, Nicky.
Okay, I'll run through the books for that.
I can just see the door.
Okay, we'll run through the usual protocol for each of these meetings. All visitors must sign into the visitor recommendations to Craig. This includes council staff from our buildings. There is no planned fire evacuation drill or alarm test today. The fire alarm during the visit will be on immediately. Council officers will direct you to the nearest fire exit and escort visitors to the building fire assembly point beside the slumber man at the top of Parliament Walk. The Craig staff should report to the floor's assembly point. You should remain at the assembly point until directed to the occupied building and only re-enter once the fire marshal is advised that it's safe to do so. Please do not attempt to leave the site of the vehicle until it's cleared to do so with the fire marshal to ensure access routes are kept clear within the areas of the vehicles. Please note that it's a public meeting and members of the public may be in attendance. The meeting will be recorded in the Clack and published online in public viewing. The taking of photographs, including screenshots, audio or video recordings are not permitted during the meeting unless you express permission to convene. When members attending virtually activate the camera, members have not been able to access the papers from the meeting. Can you please indicate the same? Okay, thank you. I think Lindsay is joining us remotely this morning. So we want to come back on even though in the week, just going to cover some. So with us this morning online, consideration not to add any words to the rest of us. But we'll move straight on to item 2 on the agenda, which is the treasury management strategy.
Good morning, Council. So this report presents for approval the Treasury Management Strategy for 24-25 and the prudential indicators for the 3 years 2024-25 to 26-27. In accordance with the Treasury Management Code of Practice and the Prudential Code, local authorities are required to prepare an annual Treasury Management Strategy Statement, including the key prudential indicators. The proposed strategy and indicators ensure that the capital investment plans set out in the proposed budget for both the General Fund and the previously approved HRA budget are affordable, prudent and sustainable within available revenue funding streams. The strategy sets out the Council's proposed borrowing strategy for the year and the Council's current and forecast debt position based on the proposed indicative capital programme as set out in Appendix A of the Revenue and Capital Budget 24-25 report, also on the agenda for this meeting. Chart 1 in section 5.3 shows the level of borrowing required to fund the proposed capital programme, with a high level of borrowing aligned with the front-loading of capital investment within the first 5 years of the programme. The ratio of cost of borrowing to revenue funding, shown in Table 2, is a key indicator to determine whether borrowing is affordable. The ratio increases as the borrowing increases, but starts to reduce again towards the end of the 20-year programme. The strategy also sets out the Council's policy on borrowing in advance of need and debt rescheduling opportunities. Schedule 3 of the strategy sets out the strategy for investments and prospects for interest rates. Table 7 shows the expected downward trend in interest rates for both borrowing and investments from June 2024, with the bank rate expected to maintain at a level of 3% from September 2025. Appendix B also sets out the Council's investment portfolio as at the 31st of January. The level of available cash balances, low rates and the need to borrow is a focus of continual review to minimise the cost of borrowing of current and future investments. I'm happy to take any questions on the report. Thank you.
Thanks, Lindsay. Do we have any questions?
Thank you, Convener. There's an apparent contradiction on page 9 at 5.3 and table 1. The data in 5.3 says, mentions figures of 2239.97 million and 9.522, but the the table has different figures. It's got 255.437 and 19.264. Am I missing something, or is that a typo?
Sorry, I'm just looking for that section of the report. 5 point.
Compare with table
5.3.
one. The bottom right-hand corner of table one, two figures there, and the figures in 5.3 are not the same. Should they be?
Yes, they should. Apologies, it looks like it's been updated since, and the table's not been updated to match.
Okay, that's fine. I'll take that one off. Looking now at 5.4, where we mentioned that the ratio of the cost of borrowing is going from 3.89, and somewhere else I noted goes at the end of the period it's up to 9.6%. The direction of travel is kind of worrying. You feel that perhaps that's heading the wrong way, that over time we'd expect that cost of borrowing to be coming down as the capital sums outstanding are coming down. Am I wrong in that?
No, the table for the ratio of cost of borrowing is showing a significant increase over the years up to 38, 39, up to 33, 34. So it's up at 10.26, and then it starts to come down to 10.11 and then 9.55. And that's coincides with the borrowing and an investment that is required to fund the programme and the key projects within the first 5 years of the programme. So we're recognising that we need to invest to make those projects, to deliver those projects, but we're recognising as well that the trajectory of borrowing needs to come down over the longer term. And the graph further on in the Treasury strategy shows that borrowing comes down later on, and that ratio of cost of borrowing also comes down. But we need to recognise that it is higher, so there is a higher cost of revenue cost in there that needs to be recognised in the revenue budget. But it does start to come down after 33, 34, and you can see it slightly coming down to the 9.55, but it does come out down further as we go out over a longer term projection.
At the moment, page 12. Sorry, that's me. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Lee.
Thanks, Chair. My question is about ring-fenced funding. Do we have a projection of what that's going to be? Is it likely to trend upwards, or is it just because there's lots of significant increase in ring-fenced funding over the last 6 or 7 years? And I'm just wondering if that's a trend or just due to one-off projects and circumstances, and if there are projections on what that ring-fenced funding is going to be going forward.
Apologies, I couldn't quite understand the question. You referenced funding. What funding did you say?
Sorry, Councillor Lee, could you bring your microphone for a minute as well?
Sorry. Yeah. Is that better, Lindsay?
There was no sound at all there.
That's my question is about ring-fenced funding, and if we have projections of what that's going to be, is it continually trending upwards, or is that just the increase over the last couple of years just due to one-off projects and circumstances?
Okay, sorry, I understood now. So ring-fenced funding. When I'm still struggling to quite understand the question. So the ring-fenced funding that you're referring to, what is that? Where do you see that in the report?
So I think it suggested that it was up at 97 million. trying to find it. It's okay, I can take this offline, it's no problem, we'll send you a message direct, it's just technical issues.
So I've got further councillors who's going to come in and give you an opportunity to sign
Oh,
up.
really?
So, it's from this particular group that we're talking about.
Yeah, I'm sure I've seen it somewhere, we've got it written down.
So you want councillor Henry just now, give you an opportunity. So, councillor Henry.
Page 12, paragraph 8.4 and 8.5, it refers to training that's going to be available for members, both online training and face-to-face training, and I'm really glad to see that. I think that's excellent. I must admit, even with my background, I've struggled to understand this paper when it comes up. So could you maybe give us a bit of idea of what will be involved in that training? What sort of aspects it will cover? If you know, I mean, you might not really know just yet.
Yeah, so that we're looking to hold a session with our Treasury Advisors link for members, and we can have a discussion around what that content would best suit members, what areas they maybe feel that they're looking to have some more information on. And there's always like question and answer time during those sessions as well. And then there's the online offered that I'm not sure of the content of that, but when we can have a look at that and see. And as I said, if there's any gaps, we can pick those up specifically with our Treasury Advisors and go through that.
I'll just take it offline here. It's, I know it's somewhere, but it may not be in this paper now. I think it, you know, another paper. Yeah, so no, sorry about that.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Collins, will come back in.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, thanks. I remember what it was I was going to ask, and you needed to ask the first part of my question. The second part was on timescales for that, because it says 24-25, that's fairly imminent, but not very close. It would be very useful if that training could be brought forward to as early a date as possible. Is that a likelihood?
We could look to bring that forward between now and the summer recess.
Okay, thanks, that's good. Can I ask about page 18? Yeah, a question on IFRS 16 is the difference that this makes fundamentally that when you lease an asset, initially you're only putting the deposit value on the balance sheet, and incrementally the payments go on the balance sheet as an asset. Whereas IFRS 16 is insisting that you put the full value of the asset on the balance sheet and the liability at the same time. Is that correct?
I believe so. We're still at the early stages of analysing that, but I believe that's what we would be doing. Yeah.
And is that considered to be a good or a bad thing by you in terms of the presentation of the accounts? It seems useful to me, that's my point.
Yeah, I think it gives a bit more transparency, but whether that then misleads the reader in any sense, it would have to be fully disclosed so that it's understandable as to why it's there and what that represents.
Okay, thanks. I have a question on page 19, the short-term liquidity allowance. I'll forget that one, actually, it's okay. The HRA liability benchmark on page 20 is referenced. What controls that? What influences the movement in that benchmark?
The benchmark represents the borrowing that HRA are going to be taking to fund their capital programme. So the trajectory of that is in a constant increase as opposed to the general fund, because it's borrowing year on year. And when we saw the HRA report, there was less CFCR now to offset that.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, on page 21, table 3, Yeah, it just looks like the ratio of financing costs on table 3 on page 21, sorry. The housing revenue account goes from 7.21 upward trajectory again to 11.44. Kind of the same question as before. Why is that trajectory going that direction?
Similar to the answer just to the liability benchmark, there's increasing borrowing within the HRA as we've reduced the surplus. So there's less CFCR. So any capital expenditure then needs to be undertaken by borrowing, which is a key consideration when we're looking at the rents for HRA and when we set the HRA budget and looking at that rent increase, we need to make sure that we're covering the costs of our borrowing along with to match our capital expenditure. So it's got an increase in borrowing ratio because the interest charges are going up as we borrow more.
Okay, thanks. I think we've had this discussion before about ethical investments. Page 30. I just wonder, have we made a decision? I can't remember what happened at the meeting. Have we made any prescriptions on ethical investments?
We have nothing specifically, but we do consider that when we're looking at our Treasury investments, and we're guided a lot by our Treasury advisors, and we do kind of take that into consideration where we're looking at. But the council has a relatively safe investment portfolio in terms of commonly used across local authorities. So we don't tend to go outside that. So we have it is one of those considerations when looking at that.
Not sure if we heard all of that, but does the council get an opportunity to view and vet any prescriptions that are made?
They tend to be reported after the fact because they are in line with the indicators that are in the report. So they tend to be the money market funds, the ultra short dated funds, etc. So there's nothing sort of out of the ordinary that we're using that may have that ethical impact. But if there was anything, we would obviously bring that attention to council.
Sorry, thanks, Lindsay. That's one. Page 34. I may have asked this question before, but you know it's right in my head. It's to do with the rate of return on the accounts. Together. Yeah, page 34, appendix B, then it is looking at two items in particular, Royal Bank of Scotland, the bottom section, Royal Bank of Scotland, Bank of Scotland. And maybe a good reason to illustrate the interest rates are way out of step with everything else on that page in terms of interest rates. And there'll be a good reason for that, I'm sure, but I wonder if you could tell me what that is.
Yeah, so these accounts are our everyday accounts. So similar to your normal bank accounts you would have as an individual, there's not really much interest that you get on those. So we do try to keep a small amount of money in there, which does our everyday cash banking. And we use the other funds with the higher interest rates for where we can put money away for longer and get the interest. But we have to maintain cash balances to allow us to pay our suppliers, etc., on a short-term basis, and you generally don't get very high interest rates for those.
That's right. So I understand it. So basically, you need available just under £1.5 million available on a sort of daily basis. That's the kind of operating cash draw, is it?
Yes, that is.
Okay, thanks. That's a simple answer. Thanks very much.
Any councillor?
Yes, I'm done. Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Lindsay. Is it possible to do
Thank you, Convener. I'm happy to move this paper. It's often one that doesn't get as much attention as it probably should, and I thank Councillor Corrin for all his questions there and bringing a bit of scrutiny to the matter. I'm happy to support the recommendations in the paper which support the capital plan proposed in the following budget. This will see our borrowing increase to fund the ambitious plans for Clackmannanshire, which include the Wellbeing Hub, the Lockheed School, investment in our school estate, our roads programme, play parks and our net zero aspirations, and other infrastructure projects. The strategy over the last 15 years has been to reduce the capital borrowing, and we've successfully done so. Looking forward to the future, knowing that we'd have to increase borrowing rates again in the future. The strategy has delivered what we expected it to do. Everything's laid out in the paper for members to see. We still remain in an under-borrowed position, even though we will be moving forward to increase borrowing, and all the indications are that this is affordable to the council. So on that basis, I propose the paper.
Thank you, Councillor Lindsay, 2 seconds. Thank you. Members open to debate. Does anyone wish to debate the paper? Happy to approve. Thank you. Okay, on to item 4 on the agenda, which is the General Services Revenue and Capital Budget. Can I ask Councillor Foster?
Thank you, Convener. Before I come to the details of today's specific budget proposals, I want to take the opportunity to emphasise the ongoing work which has resulted in the proposals before you today. Firstly, on behalf of the administration, I would like to thank all the officers involved in putting together today's budget, in particular Lindsay Simmer and team. It's never an easy process, and this year in particular has involved significant time commitments to reach a final position. Every member of the SNP administration has worked with officers to explore options and proposals and agree priorities which have allowed us to reach the balanced budget position required of us in law. And I'd like to thank my colleagues for their significant contributions to the process. It really has been a team effort. As elected members, our job is to try to do the best for the area in which we live. It's not to ignore reality, shy away from difficult decisions, cherry pick issues or sugarcoat the challenges. And I really do welcome the constructive approach thus far by all elected members and the discussions which have helped us to shape the budget proposals before us today. Clackmannanshire Council has an overall revenue budget of £161.5 million. This is to invest in services for local people, such as education, health and social care, waste collection, recycling, maintaining roads and pavements, and open spaces like parks. Council tax only funds 17% of the council's budget, and this clearly does not cover the costs of all services, staff and budgets. Buildings as well. The majority of our budget is determined by UK and Scottish Government spending decisions. I continue to lobby strongly on behalf of the area for an improved settlement which reflects our circumstances as a small council area and the challenges that this brings, as well as the significant demands we have on services as a result of our demographics. Most recently, the Chief Executive and I met with the Deputy First Minister and Local Government Minister to press our case, and we have received a commitment to explore options moving forward. This could include the removal of ring fencing, as well as developing new ways of working, and I will keep the Council updated on progress. The Scottish Government has provided Clackmannanshire Council with funding of £1.3 million to freeze the council tax. This is the amount we would raise by implementing a 5% council tax increase. By accepting the Scottish Government's offer, we can ensure that this at least is one less cost increase that households have to worry about while struggling daily with the cost of living crisis, and I hope this will be supported by members across the chamber. As I outlined last year, the outlook for future years remains challenging, not only for councils, but across the entire public sector. And while this budget will see every directorate in the council benefit from an increase in funding, the increased demand for statutory services in areas like social care and education means there is less money to invest in non-statutory services. This means we must change the services we provide and reduce our overheads. These are not easy decisions to make, as we know they will ultimately impact on local people and communities. Like all councils, our costs have risen significantly due to the effects of inflation, wage increases, escalating energy costs and economic conditions. For example, this year our energy costs have increased by £644,000, and the cost of our PPP contracts has risen from 9.993 million to 10.381 million. These pressures also have a significant impact on the services we are able to provide. The proposals outlined in the budget outline the policy redesign and management efficiencies savings of 5.383 million. And where possible, we have tried to minimise the impacts on our communities while still providing the services we are legally obliged to do. Despite the challenging financial climate, Clackmannanshire Council will still be investing in key services and programmes. Where we can, we are trying to protect the priorities which have already been agreed by this council, such as education and social work, health and social care, and tackling poverty, with 2/3 of the council's budget being invested in these areas. And this includes £58 million on education and learning. This includes £9.7 million to deliver 1,140 hours of funded early learning and childcare, £6 million to support children and young people with additional support needs, £26.6 million to deliver adult health and social care through the Clackmannanshire and Stirling Health and Social Care Partnership, £17 million on care and protection, and £11.4 million on development and environment, which includes waste services, parks, street lighting and economic development. The underlying principle in this budget continues to be a focus on transformation and sustainability, which has been a major feature over the last few years and must continue to be so for some time to come. We are making excellent progress with Be the Future and building on the foundations laid in previous years. And this budget will see further investment in the Transformation Fund to advance proposals for innovation and change. In recognition that collaboration, joint working and partnership is the way we will deliver sustainable public services, we continue to invest in the Family Wellbeing Partnership, our community wealth building agenda, and the delivery of a wellbeing economy to improve outcomes for our most vulnerable children and families, sustaining our focus on tackling poverty and inequality. Our capital programme, which is refreshed each year, will see £255 million invested in the area over the next 20 years. It's a plan which is ambitious and includes an overall investment of £77.5 million for the new Wellbeing Hub and new Lockheed School, £870,000 to upgrade play parks, £7.4 million for digital and data transformation, and £52.92 million in roads and street lighting. It will also support our net zero aspirations and play an important part in supporting our local economy for the benefits of all of our citizens. We are delivering sustainable inclusive growth through the Stirling and Clackmannanshire City Region deal, with Scotland's International Environment Centre and Intergenerational Living Innovation Hub as flagship projects within the Alloa Innovation Hub and Transformation Zones. We are continuing to transform and modernise the way the Council operates by being innovative and working with our partners across the public and third sectors. The priority remains working with partners to maximise investment opportunities for the area. In finalising our budget proposals for this year, we have endeavoured to take into consideration feedback provided through the budget consultation process and to try and find compromises which deliver a balance between affordability and sustainability while still providing the vital services that people need. This includes specific investment which will support and enable communities like those in Sauchie and Tillicoochee to take community facilities into local control, delivering longer-term sustainable solutions for these valuable community assets. We've seen successful similar initiatives in places like Dollar, Alva, Mainstream, Tillabuddy in recent years, and these have brought over £1 million of additional funding into communities that's just not available to the Council. There will also be resources committed through the Places Investment Fund to deliver upgrades to facilities, which will also support the new models of ownership or management. However, every councillor in this chamber knows there are still challenges to overcome and savings to be made in future years, and quite frankly, there is not much left to cut. And this just has to be taken into consideration when we make our decisions here today. I would like to finish by thanking all the staff across the Council for their efforts over the past year, Across all our services and teams, our staff continue to go above and beyond, delivering the public services that are hugely valued by individuals, families and communities across Clackmannanshire. It's not always recognised, but this hard work in supporting the people and communities of Clackmannanshire is very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Foster. Councillor Lindsay, to second.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for that. Yeah, as the council leader has clearly laid out, the council leader has clearly laid out the context from which this council still operates. Presented with a challenging financial context of increasing demands on services, this budget also presents exciting opportunities and confirms significant investment in major infrastructure projects through the £255 million aspirational capital programme. And this has been enabled, as we've already heard, through years of tough decisions, transformation of services and reduction in things like borrowing over a number of years now, as we've heard in the previous paper. In terms of consultation, throughout this particular process, we've continued to listen to people, groups and communities with these views a central part of our deliberations and decision making. I was particularly blown away with the session here in the council chambers with the pupil voice, which included young people from key secondary schools. The maturity, inclusive thinking and ability to weigh up budget options was incredibly inspiring. And this voice has supported me in my decision making over the last number of months in particular. In terms of our approach to budget, the paper clearly sets out the overall approach that the administration has taken to balancing the budget this year. Well, we welcome the 1.3 billion from the Scottish Government to support the freeze in council tax. As the council leaders clearly articulated, we need to continue to make that case and argue robustly for the increased resources for council over the coming years to ensure we can continue to operate both sustainably and safely for our community's needs. For me personally, it's a great privilege and a responsibility to hold the role of education spokesperson, not only because it oversees the biggest service budget, at just under half of the general services budget, but also because, and more importantly, it's focused on the nurturing of our youngest children, the care and safety of some of our most vulnerable, and the educational needs of every individual across Clackmannanshire. I'd like to take this opportunity at this point just to personally thank all of our education establishments, teachers, young people and their families for their commitment, patience and professionalism and overall contribution to the education system. In terms of budget highlights, the council leaders covered a number, including some of the education funds, but I just want to reinforce what this budget means in terms of the investment and continued investment that goes into our education system. And that includes maintaining teacher and learning assistant numbers, of which we have some of the best, if not the best, teacher-pupil ratio in the country, below national average, and we have currently our school goals falling, so that only will improve as we move forward. We also, and it's something we don't know, but we also have primary key staff in every single school, and I believe we're the only local authority to do so. So just in terms of that overall investment that goes into maintaining teacher numbers, it's an incredible investment that we make here in Clackmannanshire. We invest £6 million and will be investing £6 million in supporting children and people with additional support needs. Invest £300,000 in approaches to support mental health and wellbeing of young children. With additional investment, again, this year of £9.7 million will ensure that all 3 and 4 year olds, eligible twos, and some of our youngest children have the offer of 30 hours per week of funded learning and childcare. And we'll continue to invest £250,000 in one-to-one digital devices for all our children from P3 upwards. In addition to that, we'll continue to develop new partnerships, something we're particularly good at across Clackmannanshire and within the education system. And throughout all of this, we'll continue to listen to our educated children and their families as we look to improve their experience within our, what I believe is an outstanding first-class education system. There were obviously proposals that have been consulted on that were not taken forward, particularly one that received quite a bit of attention around public transport. It's not something that the administration will take forward at this time, but it is something along with many other things that can never be off the table. Given the infrastructure that we do have in place, we have to consider all of these options as we go forward in the coming years. Just in terms of capital and the development of our infrastructure, again, it's been referenced, but I'm delighted to see the work progressing to deliver a new Lockheed school, and the commitment to this is absolutely clear within the capital programme. It's been outlined at 77.5 million for the co-location of Lockheed's with the new railway hub. And this development has been one of our key priorities for some time due to increasing complex needs of our young people and adequate surroundings. And I'm really pleased that our most vulnerable young children will have a modern facility with space and the appropriate services on site co-located with the new railway hub. I think just to finish, it's just thanks to officers, to directors, particularly Larry and Colin, who have worked very, very closely with around these budget decisions, to Nikki for her leadership across the council, and to Lindsay for pulling a huge amount of work together across the year, but it gets very, very intense at this time of year. But to my colleagues as well for their political leadership, the hours, the days, the weeks that we put into every aspect of our portfolios to make sure we cover all bases, to listen to all angles. That weight of responsibility is significant and it's appreciated certainly within this team. However, Clackmannanshire has a council and an administration utterly committed to working with its people to deliver the very best for them, and we'll continue to do that. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Lindsay. With this being a budget paper, we do it slightly different to normal papers, so there's still an opportunity now to ask questions on the paper before we open it up to debate, and we've got officers with us to assist in that if anybody has any questions. Councillor Bennett, before Councillor Brown.
Thanks, Chair. Just a small question, Helen. You spoke about the removing of ring fencing. How much have we had in the past? I know there's a few things that have been ring fenced, and what will that mean in reality if that's all closed off?
Thanks, Martha. The exact figures, Lorraine might be able to, or Lindsay might be able to give the information on that, but it's a significant part of the budget, and it's ring fenced to deliver on priorities that we agreed on with the Scottish Government. So we agreed on Keep Causewell, and that's ring fencing to deliver early years, to deliver free school meals, to deliver significant different priorities through the week. What we're asking for is a little bit of leeway, because we think that we could use the funding, and particularly in Clackmannanshire, when somebody's ring fenced, it's a small amount, and therefore if we're, say for example, our Violence Against Women and Girls partnership, I think we get approximately £14,000 a year to deal with that. That's not enough to deal with the challenge that we have there. To deliver other priorities as well, the funding can be quite small, so we feel that if we're able to put these funds together to give a bigger mass, we're able to still deliver on the outcomes, but not necessarily in the way that we're expected to from the government. So we're working up these plans. Lorraine has been working on that for some time now. We've got commitment from the Cabinet Secretary that she will look at these to see if we can do things a bit differently here in Clackmannanshire, just to appreciate the context that we're working in, and they do seem quite open to that. There's a bit of work to go through to be able to get final agreement on that, but we were quite committed to doing that. But I think Lindsay will be able to provide the specifics on ring fencing.
Thanks, Ellen. Yeah, I was just looking for the information to see exactly how much it was. I've not got that to hand, but in terms of this year, we've had the early learning childcare funding that was previously ring fenced that Ellen had mentioned there. So that's been released into core money, and as described, we're able to use that as we see fit locally to meet the requirement and for the local need. So I think it was around 5 million that we had in previously that's now been ring fenced. So it's previously ring fenced now into our core. So it does give us the opportunity to look wider to see how we will deliver and meet that commitment with those funds.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quinn.
Thank you, Convener. One of the tasks that all elected members have had to perform in connection with the budget is prioritisation of needs out there and against the available money. And that's obviously a very important exercise, and it's good that we've all had the opportunity to contribute to that process. However, I wonder, when I was looking at that comparison with Stirling, who would want to do that, but I did it anyway. They have a population of 94,000 and a half. They got 3,500 responses, which is a penetration of 4%. We have 51,500 and a penetration of 930, a response of 930, a penetration of 1.8%. The difference between the two campaigns was that Stirling started in August and ours started, I believe, in January. Do you agree that we should have started this earlier and should have started earlier in the future?
Well, I would say that the kind of discussion with our communities is ongoing throughout the year. As Graham's described, he has specific ongoing conversations with young people around the education budget. We have ongoing discussions with communities in different forums in relation to priorities, etc. I do take your point, though, that Stirling did start in August having a conversation about the wider context. We've done that in previous years, so I think we've set the scene in previous years. So for us, we're specifically going out to consult on specific issues, whereas in August, Stirling didn't do that. They didn't actually go out to consult on their specific issues, I think, until December. So I think we've set the scene ahead over previous years. There's always more we can do to consult and to try and engage communities. But you'll see the responses that come back are varied and really depend on the individual issues and communities.
Thank you. Yeah, this is maybe another financial question. Going on to page 37, no, it's not, sorry, it's page 39, 5.3. The statement in the middle line says, as it relates to the council tax underwriting, this funding is yet to be allocated and is estimated. That is concerning, and I wonder what happens if, when it's finally decided, the figure is dramatically different from what we're expecting. What do we then do with our budget?
I can come in on that if that's okay. So it says it's estimated at the moment. We've had a letter from the Deputy First Minister confirming that we will get funding to that amount. However, until we see it published in the finance order or get that formal communication, it's estimated. So there is a high probability that we will get that amount. And it will be baselined. It's also been confirmed that it will be baselined. So I think there's just a bit of timing of the report and the information that's coming out. So we'll get the finance order shortly that will confirm that 100%. If there was any reason why that would be different, I can't imagine why there would be, but we would have to look at again our budget. But as I say, it's been written to us by the Deputy First Minister that is the allocation. And it will be baseline, so it's a high certainty that that's what we'll get.
Yeah, having difficulty hearing your response, and you may have answered this as well. I wasn't sure. How do we make adjustments? If the figure is different, how do we go about adjusting things and by what process? If we're signing off a budget today, is that written in stone? Can we reconvene and adjust the budget?
If there was any other information that comes out after our budget's set, it would come back and be asked to be presented to council, either at a regular meeting or a special meeting, to put a proposal forward of how we manage that change, whether it's an increase or a decrease.
Thank you.
Do you make it? Do you want to come on this?
Thank you, Convener. Just to say that it's not an unusual situation because, as you'll appreciate, all the budgets are set at a point in time. So at any point in time, we've got a certain amount of information that is confirmed and other things that are yet to be confirmed. So we've not, I cannot recall actually in the whole time I've been here where we've had a material difference come through, because the bulk of our funding is dispersed on a population basis. So we know the figures that are being used for that, so we can look at the estimate in line with the proposed distribution and come to a view of whether or not we think that's in the same ballpark. But I don't recall any material difference over that time. But it's not an unusual position, is the main point I wanted to make.
Thanks. Okay, that's my last question. Again, it's a technical one. And it's on page 42. And we're talking about the 6 million from the one-off general revenue reserve from service concessions. If that wasn't, if we've been asked to approve the change here, does that mean that that's a deviation from normal practice? So what is normal practice? What would otherwise have happened to that £6 million?
So as part of the Treasury Management Strategy last year, we put forward the proposal that Council approved to adopt the service concessions, which generated a past year benefit of 12 million. So that needed to be earmarked, and this paper proposes to use 6 million of that earmarked fund. So if I think your question, if we weren't using it today, what would happen to it? So it would stay in earmarked reserves.
Earmarked for what?
Earmarked for future priorities, the transformation for the TOM to support the council going forward. So as it's one-off reserves, it would sit as an earmarked reserve till a proposal came forward for use by council.
Okay, to complete my understanding, when we use the word earmark, we're distinguishing distinctly between that and ring fencing. So earmarking is a dotted line, ring fencing is a solid line. Is that correct?
Ring fencing is a term that's tended to be used by the Scottish Government and how they allocate their funding. So earmarked reserve is what a local authority tends to use the term when they set aside monies for a specific purpose in a pot. So I think it's just the different terminologies used by the different organisations.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor, I was just going to add to that in terms of assisting with understanding on it. So in terms of the purpose of that earmarking, you need to cast your mind back 12 months to when we were in the chamber. So that purpose that Lindsay's just outlined was highlighted at the point when the Treasury Management Strategy Statement came forward last year. Was discussion on that. So we talked about the need to invest in our transformation activities to be able to contribute to delivering sustainability as we go forward. So that was the purpose for that particular earmarking.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor.
Thanks, Camilla. No, it's fine. Thank the leader for detailed outline the main points of the budget here. Obviously, we get a lot of communication, all of us, about the proposals that are coming forward, and we've all read the consultation, we've all had the emails filling up. So I think the main thing this year, obviously, is concerned is Sauchie Hall. So I'd just like to ask, what more information can we provide about what work's been ongoing, what work's currently ongoing in order to potentially facilitate a future for Sauchie Hall where the community could potentially take a bit of part in running that.
Thanks for that question, Councillor Quinn. Over the last year, officers have tried to engage with certain parts of the community in Sauchie Hall to discuss potential community asset transfers or different ownership models, really to try and facilitate future sustainability for the hall. And the responses that were at that time were really not interested in doing that. So I think that's why the proposals were put forward in relation to Sauchie Hall this year. Because moving forward, the council really does have to look at different operating models. This is outlined in the budget. And as I've said, that things are really going to get more difficult as we do go forward over the coming years. Not just with Clackmannanshire, but every council in the country is looking at these sorts of things. And we've seen, great examples of asset transfers or management agreements across the rest of Clackmannanshire, which have brought significant investment to the local communities, but also giving communities a good sense of ownership, and they know that their halls are there for the future then. They have control over what happens in them, what funding they can access, what they can charge, and really I think it's been a great success. So based on the feedback that we've received through emails, the budget consultation, and also the public meeting, we took on board the fact that the community felt that there needed to be some work done to Sauchie Hall before they could consider taking on a community asset transfer or an ownership agreement. There's different models, and I think that's one of the things that we need to explore to see what's right for Sauchie. Also Tillicoochee, let's not forget that Tillicoochee was also there. So the place-based investment fund will be prioritised over the next couple of years to provide that capital investment to allow upgrades or kind of alterations, etc., to take place. We don't know what they'll be just now because we need to have those conversations. I think also kind of taking on board the comments that some communities need a little bit more support than others, but also the target operating model that's already been agreed about moving forward, about community empowerment, engagement, and communities being much more responsible for assets. We've agreed through the transformation fund to fund a post where there'll be an officer dedicated in the first instance to work with Sauchie and Tillicoochee to kind of come up with the models of ownership that would work for them, the different funding streams that would be available to support that, and really to build the capacity around those. But I see that posting kind of moving forwards in the future to work with the wider Clackmannanshire area. There's other assets that could be transferred, as we're seeing across. There could be play parks, there could be kind of different types of facilities. We're seeing this quite successfully in different areas, and I would emphasise again that when assets are in the ownership of the community, they can access much more funding than the council can themselves, and therefore deliver a much more sustainable model. So I hope that provides a bit of more context. There is a bit of work to be done, and I think exactly what and when it will be really dependent on the communities themselves and how they see that taken forward. But community voice needs to be at the heart of that.
Thank you. Chief Executive, when you answer that as well, Councillor Quinn.
So just to add to what the council leaders just said, from a practical point of view, following the public meeting and the engagement we had about changes to the proposals and putting in the proposal around developing additional capacity in that space from the transformation fund, I've already started to work with officers to look at creating a job profile for that senior officer to be able to take that work forward. We've actually been additional to thinking about the external work, if you think of it as a project level, we're also thinking about, from an organisation point of view, the design issues that we need to think about. So quite a few of you have heard me talking about our structure as a council just now is in our three portfolios. If you think of those as vertical, we're actually working more and more horizontally across all three portfolios. So part of the role for that person will be to think about how do we create a sustainable design as well as deal with the specific proposals that come forward. So we're actually expediting that work, pretty quickly following the public meeting. And there's a wee bit in the future update paper that will be coming to the council in March.
Thank you, Councillor Quinn.
Happy, thank you.
Any other questions, Councillor Quinn?
More an observation than a question. There's questions there as well. Are we looking at the ones that have actually been successful and asking them if they would help with the people who are not quite there yet?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's going to be a key part of it. We've seen successful transfers or management agreements, and I think everybody will acknowledge that there were hiccups in a lot of those to begin with, and I think we've learned a lot as a council in relation to those. But I think that the organisations themselves have a lot to offer, and I know that in the past, the Dollar in particular have been quite keen to kind of share their expertise and where they've been quite successful. So I would be hoping that part of and again this is for the officers, but I would really be hoping that the part of the role for that person would bring together a bit of a forum that could offer support and guidance and be able to kind of share good practice and maybe where the pitfalls are and what can be done better. And I think it's safe to say, if you were to ask any of the organisations and development trusts running those homes at the moment, not one of them would hand them back to the council, because they're working far better for the communities and delivering the services that the communities want. And that's essentially what we're here for. As a council, we need to facilitate rather than deliver, I think.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Martin to follow the Councillor.
It's actually a question for Pete. It's on page 76 regarding the redesign vacant environmental health officer post to technical officer. Can you tell us what this means, please?
Essentially, it's taking one of the vacant posts for environmental health officer and focusing more on the technicals. It's more of a technician grade. I would suggest express it in that way. So it's more of it's a lower grade. So the same as comes from the fact that it's a lower grade job. It's focusing as more a technician. Doesn't necessarily the same level of qualification that needs for an environmental health officer.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pete. Councillor Murphy.
Thanks, Convener. Page 77, review of leisure services and review of sports development service. In terms of these reviews and the impact on current sessional or more specifically full-time staff, is anyone currently in position likely to face job loss or redundancy as a result of the review?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Cookey. So at the moment, it would be 5.1 FTE. In terms of savings, there's currently 2.5 FTE current vacancies and one temporary post. So there would be the equivalent of 3 members of staff that would be through a redesign process. We would have to go through the organisational redesign protocol, then look at what would be, whether it be voluntary service or TPR or redeployment.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Councillor.
Yeah, thank you. Perhaps I should answer that when Pete, this question that Pete was up, because again it's for Pete. On page 76 of the papers, reference PLM GT15, it talks about the language redesign. I take it from the reduction here that would be one post. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, so currently there's kind of 3 staff within that and a pool, and we're looking to redesign the team whereby there'll be a sharing of resources. So there could be potentially moving from like 3 FTEs to 2.
Well, that answers my next question. I was going to ask how many people do we have? Yeah, I was going to lead on the next question, because I was going to ask how many staff do we have. But 2 staff don't seem to be an awful lot of staff within that service. Given that the adverse weather conditions that the country is facing basis, but 2 people being capable of forestry questions that may arise.
So we currently have sufficient capacity when we look at the redesign to accommodate necessary weather. And these posts in particular aren't just dealing with the emergency stuff, it's the day-to-day as well. So with the redesign, we're comfortable that the service can still maintain service delivery during storm events and that sort of thing, or trees.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Ian. Any other questions? No? Okay, thank you. So the papers are going to be on debate. Does anyone wish to debate the paper?
I think in previous years, certainly pre-COVID, budget was a big thing, a big fanfare. big slab of meat on the table and have at it. I think since COVID, since after lockdown, this isn't really a budget anymore. It's more of a working plan. I speak for myself and my colleagues when I say that we feel part of that plan. So it's really just building on that year and year. So I read the paper, I read it twice. I have a messy notes. I don't have any questions. And I think that stands testament to the officers and the administration for keeping us informed and part of the process. So I know exactly where we're heading, what we're doing, what potential pitfalls are coming up, and I'm more informed to deal with my community as a result of that. So I think the officers and council enforcement stand assessment. So I just like to congratulate everybody on that, and just again add my support to the budget, the working plan, as it's good work.
Thank you for that, Councillor Coyne.
Yes, thank you, Convener. I just feel this is one more minor seismic shift in tensions between national government and local government, moving in the wrong direction, if I may say so. You don't get the cast attractive of painting all the rooms the same colour. And that's one of the good things about having local government. We are local, we're flexible, we understand what's going on, what the needs are on the ground. And the way the things are painted at the moment, it's the same colour everywhere. And I think we've highlighted with things like the domestic violence, etc. There are local needs that are very specific to this area, and there'll be other needs that are appropriate elsewhere. You need that local dimension to make this thing work. And I think it's regrettable that we are being led gradually down a line of becoming mere functionaries of all national government, and it's not really what this is all about. We are the village elders grown up, and we're having that power and that discretion and that flexibility to take it. I think it's a great shame. I think Clackmannanshire is a minor beacon as to how things should be in local government. I think we do tremendously well here. We have a council that works very well together. We have officers who perform. We have good ideas. We have great formative thinking. And that's gradually going to be taken away as this process continues. It's not really a debate about the paper, sorry, it's a debate, it's a comment about the state of play. I just felt I had to get in my guns on that one. Thank you.
You're there. Councillor Taggart, to be followed by Councillor Rennie.
Thanks, Convener. There's no doubt this has been an extremely difficult budget to set, with hard and unwelcome decisions made. No councillor wants to reduce services or increase prices, but this has become necessary in this budget. I think it's also forced us to understand how transformation can change the services without actually depleting them, and in some cases enhance them. If we as a council, as Councillor Crossan said, can facilitate rather than dictate, I think that's the best outcome for communities. This council, like every other council across the UK, is facing financial hardship. We've seen a growing and sustained demand for services, while the backdrop of wars is impacting on service supplies, leaving them in short supply and pushing prices up as a result. And while the pandemic would appear to be in the past, the economic fallout from that remains an issue for us. Cost of living crisis is affecting everyone in this country, and it is dire. And we understand the difficulties that's causing, but it also affects the council. Our financial capacity is impacted, our costs have risen, our finances are stretched. We've worked really hard on this budget. We've tried to find a fair way to deal with the ongoing financial burdens, and we take every decision very seriously, especially decisions that impact our communities, and every councillor is protective of their ward. This has been a very serious budget, and this has been a very difficult budget, but I hope that it's understood that we'll try to do our very best, and we'll work very hard to get there. The officers have had massive pressure for us, we've had massive pressure from each other, and we hope that it's understood that we'll try to do our very, very best for everybody. Thanks, Convener.
Thank you. Councillor Rennie.
As the leader did, I would like to thank all the officers who engaged us throughout this process. It was a long process, and officers put a great deal of time aside to actually come to meet with us separately to see all the different proposals and to ask us our view on it. So it meant that the engagement was there with all councillors, which was extremely positive. I'd also like to thank the administration for engaging with other members throughout this process, and I think that's a really positive way forward, and we really value that, so that we weren't just getting a real surprise when the budget papers came forward and there was a lot of discussion prior to this point. I'm also really pleased to see that the engagement with the public was really taken into account in the decision making, and that decisions were changed. And I have to say, having known councils for a number of years, often they're intractable and they never change their decisions no matter what. So the fact that the public were listened to in this occasion, then I'm very pleased to see that. And I think, we're coming home really to the things that we really just had to do, because as Councillor McTaggart said, we're dealing with unprecedented times. We're seeing councils in the north of England who are going into bankruptcy. We need to take these decisions on an early basis to ensure that we're not going to end up in that scenario too down the line, which means we need to make those decisions that feel really tough, so that we don't end up in that situation down the line. We as a group are very encouraged by the fact that previous meetings have said that there will be no compulsory redundancies, so we know that decisions that are taken will be done responsibly and we can rely on that. So although it's a really hard thing to do to support some of these proposals, I thank officers and the administration for doing this as responsibly as they could. So on that basis, I'm happy to support the budget.
Thank you. Councillor Rennie, Councillor Harrison.
Thanks for the I'd just like to say, as already been said by everybody who's spoken so far, I'd just like to thank the officers that have been involved in pulling this budget together, which has been developed in incredibly difficult circumstances, and I don't think there have been any easy decisions being made throughout the whole process. As a spokesperson for Sport and Active Living, I'd like to acknowledge the work done to review the sports development and the leisure services teams, and what's been done there, and along with the Sport and Active Living framework redevelopment. I think that will help us to deliver services more efficiently, and with an eye on the wellbeing hub that's been mentioned already, and how we operate that going forward as well. On the subject of the wellbeing hub, I think it's still a sign of the ambition of the council that we have put aside £77.5 million for what is a hugely important piece of work with the wellbeing hub and Lochie School. We will deliver a high-spec, sustainable, not just environmentally but operationally facility for the whole county, and that we've been allowed to do that with budget decisions that have been taken in the past to bring borrowing down, which is allowing us to borrow for that £77.5 million, which is a significant amount. Also, just on Councillor Coyne and Councillor Rennie there, I think it is pretty refreshing when you see what else is going on about the company with budget setting, how collaborative we have been in this council. We won't get anything done by constantly butting heads. I think it has been really refreshing to see the work that we've all done together, and I'm thankful for the recognition that you see what the administration and the officers to get us to this position. So yeah, thanks for that, and thanks to you.
Thank you. Councillor Quinn, followed by Councillor Hamilton.
Yeah, I just thank all the officers for the hard work, tremendous amount of work being put into this. And obviously, there's some stuff in here that's not terribly nice, stuff that keeps you awake at night, and stuff that we maybe prefer not to do. We had the option, but unfortunately, it's the circumstances we're in. It's not unique to us. It's across the whole of Scotland, across the whole of the UK, because of government decisions. A lot of our funding is impacted by that, and there's nothing we can do. And my approach to the budget is always the same. Not voting for a budget is the worst possible outcome. It could be, if we do not vote for a budget today, then the budget will be decided for us, that we will have absolutely zero control over and zero say over as councillors, and that's just not an option. And, there has been, I want to thank the administration and all the elected members, there has been a lot of discussions. So, I want to reassure the public, you've had, 18 councillors looking over this, working together, talking about all these issues, looking with all the different expertise, coming together and actually trying to do what's best. And we left party politics at the door, and we tried to do what's best for the people of Clackmannanshire. And I just want to thank everybody for that. I think it's been really refreshing, especially when I hear horror stories from other councils around the country about how they operate. Sometimes we do get our heads together when it matters, and we're willing to try and get the best outcome for everybody. But there is a lot of positive stuff in here as well. Really looking forward to the well-being of. I think that most people have no idea how wonderful this is going to be. It's going to be built to passive house standards. It's going to be not a replacement for the leisure boat, but it's going to be a leisure boat on steroids. It's going to be a lot more that goes on there, a lot more happening, and it's going to be built to. I think it's going to be the most energy efficient sports in Scotland, one of the most energy efficient sports in the UK. That's something really exciting. As well, on the same campus, we're going to have the new hockey school. It's going to be another fantastic achievement once we get that. As well as investment in net zero and energy efficiency, there's a lot of positive stuff happening here that we are able to do despite the challenge circumstances we find yourself in. And so, because of that, and because no one else is able to come with anything better, and I can come with anything better than what's been put here, I'm happy to support the budget. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Quinn. Councillor Hamilton, before the Councillor.
Thanks, Convener. I'd like to echo the comments by my colleagues to thank officers for the work going into this budget, and also for constituents who took part in the budget consultation, allowing us to shape decisions. As a health and social care spokesperson, I would like to take this opportunity to thank staff for the continued hard work across the health and social care partnership, children's services, community justice and the third sector, and to reiterate the difference they make to people's lives on a daily basis. Moving forward, we all agree that we have to work differently. The financial pressures are unfortunately not going to go away, and therefore I look forward to continuing the ongoing early intervention and transformative work such as the Bargain Foundation, alongside Avalauer, who are working with Lorraine, Sharon and her team to look at new models to ensure that our care experienced young people have the support they require moving forward, and also importantly keep them within their community. The IGP is receiving 26.6 million to deliver transformative health and social care, and I look forward to continued focus on prevention and to supporting our health and social care partnership to deliver this. News which I've heard you recently, hopefully we giving a lot going forward. It's the right care at the right time, and this is right for people of Clackmannanshire. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Errol, before the Councillor.
Thank you, Convener. Convener, the difficulties that have been discussed have been replicated right across Scotland and other local authorities as they also set their budgets. The funding crises that councils across Scotland are facing are unprecedented, absolutely. And local authorities have been forced to make cuts to services, the likes that I've never seen. In 21 years that I've been a councillor, I've never seen and never been forced to make the amount and level of cuts to services. And I can appreciate the difficulties that have been, the administration have had to look at. We, as a Labour group, have had our arguments, we've had our discussions, we've had our fallouts. This all comes at the same thing, and it's all down to the same information that we have. It's not a position that I wanted to be in when I first came in, but I can appreciate that it's not a problem that's unique to Clackmannanshire. It is a countrywide problem. But Councillor Quinn has touched on an area there as well, about the strength of being able to work together to leave political baggage at the door and get around the table, see them come to a conjoined approach to various problems. So, yeah, it's a difficult decision to make, but I can appreciate the hard decisions that they have to be made and have had to be made. And yes, I'm really prepared to support the budget on this occasion.
Thank you. Councillor Berry.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, well, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody, all the officers, everybody's not thank officers. Niall, I appreciate the work that they do 100%. The one thing I have to say is we've got to cut our cloth. There's no way around the fact that councils are getting more loaded onto them with less money. Myself and Wendy were at the IJB meeting yesterday, and that just blows your mind, you know, and the amount of money that's needed there, and the fact that it's not there in the future, that frightens the life out of me, because then it's people's lives that are at risk when we're talking about the IJB and what they do in social health and social care. So I am 100% in favour of the budget. I have got no problems at all accepting it, with a caveat of that we really have to watch for the future. It's not a case of let's pat ourselves on the back and say people who have done this and it's great. It's not. It's the thin end of the wedge, and I can see it getting worse before it gets better, hopefully. So I don't like to down everybody, but we have to be realistic and say this is the beginning of our issues and problems, not the end. And we need to keep a tight grip on what's happening within the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Watt.
Just like everybody else, I first would like to thank all the officers for their help throughout the year, and for also asking what might seem very random questions to come from me, which I'm sure you are used to by now. I remember before becoming a councillor, taking part in the public consultation and looking at some of the options there and going, oh my, I'm glad I'm not making these decisions. Which is partly why one of the reasons why I became a councillor, because I wanted to see actually what actually happens, and it really does kind of blow your mind what work goes on behind the scenes for us to kind of work on a budget. And as I say, it has been pretty difficult. There has been many sleepless nights, so I just want to kind of, I don't know if it reassures the public, you know, that we do take it seriously. It's not just a weekend, oh, why not, we'll just do that, because it's definitely not, those decisions are not made like that. But, you know, we're also continuing to do some really good work, and I wish sometimes we did have the money to make things go faster. Everybody knows about public transport. You know, I wish we had money to have a huge big bus fleet so that we could do the, I don't know, I remember the buses every 20 minutes and whatnot, although we were still doing sometimes. But, you know, we are trying to work within the resources that we have, and we are working to have develop a sustainable local transport with our partners. We're also investing in net zero by decarbonising our fleet, or cancer, because you know we are investing in active travel, so you know. We're also continuing to support for tenants and homeowners for energy efficiency, and I always take this opportunity to plug the Home Energy Advice team that they're there if anybody needs help, or please get everybody in Clackmannanshire contacting them so that they can help out. We're also investing in our biodiversity. We'll soon hopefully be coming to council with our pollinator strategy. You know, and I think that that's really important. Our biodiversity strategy, the communication, so that people know the areas that we will be earmarking for biodiversity plans are important, and then not just areas that are left to go wild because we can't be bothered cutting them, because these are areas that will be managed and they will require cutting and whatnot. It's not just throwing a bunch of seats down and just leaving it and us not bothering about it. You know, there is a plan behind it. So I'd just like to finish again saying thank you to officers and also to fellow councillors as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any others? Councillor Martin?
Yeah, and I won't say what everyone else has said, you know, but that's how I feel. I would like to thank the officers who, and I heard a good expression the other day, especially the ones who can walk through walls. I've never heard that one, but I know what it means, to overcome all barriers. So yeah, you know, and the administration for working with us as well, you know, so yeah, and I'll be supporting the budget.
Thank you. Councillor McCluskey?
Yeah, if I could just put this going to sound like an echo group, but I think as an opposition group sometimes it can be a really easy point of view to take, that you can just sit and constantly oppose because you can. But I think if that's the case, and when you do have a strong case for opposition, it's maybe not held as strong as it should be, which is why on this occasion, again as a group, we were recognising the difficulties financially that the council are facing, and that there was little or no variation really to the budget that has been presented. So which is why we were in the position where we are happy to support it. I think when you just, let's say, continue opposing for opposition's sake just because you can, I'm not entirely sure what that achieves. So I think in this instance we're all very acutely aware of the difficult position that we're in, and the decisions that have been made haven't been made lightly, and that's why we are in a position that we will support the budget. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there no other councillor?
Sorry, convener. As promised, I'd like to add my thanks to the staff and in particular all councillors around this table and who are dialing in. I think we have had a kind of collaborative approach. There have been many meetings, both with officers on different political parties and indeed together. Like Kenny, I've reflected, I think this is our 25th budget, and it's certainly been challenging as a local authority. We're coming out of COVID, we're facing the cost of living crisis, so the council faces those same financial issues as every household in the council does. And on top of that, we've got more restrictions in terms of finance from central government. And we are the smallest mainland local authority, and there's no doubt we have some capacity issues. However, I think as the smallest mainland local authority, we've demonstrated that we can work together, and we work together on this budget. There's absolutely no doubt that we have had, we've engaged with our communities as best we can, but very often these decisions we're now down to taking more of these very difficult decisions, and the only way we can do this in a responsible way, I believe, is in a collaborative way, and I think we have done that in this particular budget process. I think, to my mind, it's actually the first time that the administration has been able to actually print their full budget before a council meeting. So we are working together and pick up Councillor Coyne's comments. We get a lot of slating in social media, and it's certainly not an easy task being an elected member. There are joys though, in the sense that I would think there's many local authorities that have made the commitment that we have financially in terms of the wellbeing centre, and our vision looking forward for the community that we want to create and provide for our citizens. And I hope we take that mindset forward. Everything we do, I would like to think that people out there do actually trust us, that we are actually doing our best to provide improved council services, as well as working with our communities to, yes, take on board some of these responsibilities in terms of managing facilities. And I have a firm belief, rather than having to close these facilities in Clackmannanshire, our communities have picked up the cudgel, if you like, to manage and work in collaboration with the council to deliver better services, and it's only that way communities delivering services for themselves that they can take yes, some of the different decisions, but also deliver services and opportunities above and beyond what the council can. And I think as I'd like to thank the leader and the deputy of the council in driving this process forward. But I think the other thing about community engagement and more community management is that they can actually attract funding externally that the council can secure. So I just like to conclude and again thanking everybody, and we've still got tough years ahead, but as Councillor Benny highlighted, hopefully there are real opportunities at the end of the tunnel. But I think we all know, and partly driving this process that we've been engaged in together, is that we know in future years, the next couple of years, we've still got these different decisions to take in terms of how to deliver better services for the council. So thanks everybody.
Okay, thank you very much. I've got a full house in terms of contributions that could be made there, so Councillor Wilson, do you want to sum up?
Yeah, I will just briefly sum up. I'm actually waiting for the thunderbolts and lightning to come through the window there, because I think for the first time that I can certainly remember in Clackmannanshire, we've unanimously agreed a budget. And I think that says a lot about people sitting around the table and the processes that we've gone through over the last year. But I think we've been building relationships up for the last couple of years since the election. I think everybody has been really pragmatic about the challenges that we face. And I really do appreciate the fact that people aren't just taking opposition positions for the sake of, taking them. It could be easy to do that to make a headline or to, try and grab a bit of attention. But I think we know the situation that we're facing as the smallest mainland local authority, and we're facing it together. And I think for me, our communities will probably appreciate that a lot more than we realise. People don't actually like to see us shouting at each other across the chamber and just grandstanding for the sake of it. So I really do welcome the position that we've reached today. It hasn't been easy. There's not one decision in there that I think people have wanted to take, but we're forced into it by a financial situation that's not of our making here in Clackmannanshire. We have to deal with the hand that we're dealt with, and we're doing that to the best of our ability. I just want to say to Councillor Coyne, I don't disagree with anything that you've said, and certainly in the position that I've got as leader of the council, I fight in every front possible to keep Clackmannshire's autonomy and to make sure that we can make our decisions based here locally. Very often that's taken out of our control, but we don't just take that sitting down, we do push back on that wholeheartedly. So yeah, just thanks everybody for their support, for the hard work that's going on across the chamber, and I hope we can continue that moving forward. There are going to be times that we're going to disagree, and I completely expect that, but hopefully those will be few and far between, and they'll be on the issues that really, really do matter. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I'm not going to read through all the recommendations that we've made here for another hour. I'll be happy to approve the paper as it's presented.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Send the formal business. I just want to off the same that I think somebody else, the officers, the chief executive team, that it's probably the meeting becomes it's got the least number of papers that actually wasn't really working after the efforts to get to this point through the whole years, in fairness. So it's an enormous engagement. Sales, sometimes if you get one and doing what you need to do in the back, I'm extremely grateful because it gives us a standing position when we get to here today. And I think that's been reflected in the way that the news we can get it in the meetings and people contribute to discussions. So thank you very much. And the meeting's closed.